Hello, able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. And I lost my internet connection. Okay, I'll share my screen. Yeah, so network layer. So in that network layer, so we need to know the characteristics of network layer. I already learned that switches operates at layer 2, routers operate at layer 3, right? So at layer 3, IP addresses we needed for routing purposes for sending the data. So here encapsulation process takes place, which is nothing but segmentation. So keep in mind this word segmentation. Segmentation is the process of encapsulating the data at network layer 3, right? So there are two important protocols, IPv4 and IPv6, and the basic procedure or operation, first four operations performed at network layer is: first address the devices, and then perform encapsulation, right? Encapsulation is nothing but segmentation. Final output is segmented output, and then routing, choosing a routing to select best available network out of multiple network paths, right? Select best available route, it is called as routing. And then at the receiving side, the data which is received is de-encapsulated to get the original data. These are the basic four operations happened in the network layer. Then coming to encapsulation, how network layer encapsulates the data? IP encapsulation, this is called as IP encapsulation, right? IP encapsulation means, so here observe, what is the layer above the network layer? Transport layer, right? Fourth layer, layer 4 is the transport layer, right? Observe this figure, transport layer. Okay, so this transport layer sends or attaches some segment header to the original data. Okay, to the original data, transport layer adds some segment header. So this combination output is nothing but transport layer PDU. We'll call them as protocol data units, right? So transport layer adds its segment header, which is nothing but transport layer PDU. This transport layer PDU, this complete data is the input for network layer. So here, this complete data, to this complete data, we will apply a header information, IP header information, IP header, which is nothing but this complete packet is called as IP packet, right? Attaching IP header to a data is nothing but a IP packet, or it can be called as network layer PDU. We can use either, this IP header can be either IPv4 or IPv6, right? IPv4 or IPv6. So these, the IP addressing doesn't change from source to destination, right? Next, so characteristics of IP. What is IP? Internet protocol. So there are three main characteristics: connectionless, best effort, media independent. What is the meaning of connectionless? Connectionless means, so before sending a packet, IP establishes uh, does not establish a connection with the destination device before sending a packet, right? IP is connectionless. Connectionless means there is no connection, there is no circuit between source to destination, right? You already learned in computer networking, packet switched network and circuit switched network. In circuit switched network, to send data we need to establish a circuit first, but in packet switched network we don't need to attach or create any circuits, right? We just sends the data with some addressing mechanism, right? So same thing, IP is connectionless. That means before sending any data, IP doesn't establish any connection. Instead, it attaches its IP header. IP header is nothing but a address. Okay, consider, see that figure. Suppose someone wants to send a letter to some person, so he simply writes the destination address and throw that in the mailbox. What is the duty of mailbox employees? So simply they take the all the letters and according to the address they will transfer that letter. Same thing happens in the IP networks, right? Whatever the IP address is there, whatever the IP header attached to the packet, using that IP address, that packet is transferred over the network. Okay, that's why IP is called as connectionless, right? Next, best effort. What is best effort means? IP doesn't guarantee delivery of the packet. Next, IP reduce overhead since there is no mechanism to resend data that is not sent. There is no resend mechanism in IP. That's why it will not guarantee the delivery of a packet. Next, IP, if no guaranteed delivery is there, there is no place for acknowledgements, right? And other device is operational if it is received or not. It won't bother. It simply sends the packet. Okay. In order to establish a circuit, first the destination device should be in on state. Then only we can establish a connection. But in IP is connectionless, as we learned that IP is connectionless. So instead of bothering about the status of end device, either it is in on state or off state, it simply sends its packet with its header information and throws it onto the network. Just send the data on to the network through the network. So there routing takes place and the packet will arrive at the destination. If the destination system is live, it will receive the data. If it is not live, so that packet will be dropped over there, right? Then there is no mechanism for guaranteed delivery. So IP won't bother about whether the destination device is received the data or not. If there is error occurs, there is no place for retransmission. Meaning is we are using IP packets or IP mechanism. The overhead or on the over the network is decreased. Overhead means acknowledge backends, retransmissions. These won't takes place in the IP. So thereby reducing the network load. But one disadvantage is there is no guaranteed delivery of the packet. Right. Observe the figure. Figure. There are so many packets were there. These packets were routed through multiple routers. Okay. These are the multiple routers. We have several routes. This is one route. This is one route. So many routes were there. Out of all these routes, these routers will, according to the IP address, this is the IP address of the system. According to the IP, routers will suggest a best or least cost route, and by selecting the least cost route, the packet will be traveled through that route. Right? This is the basic mechanism happens in the IP. Next, media independent. What is media independent means? Consider our network interface card. Okay, it is called as a media because it needs some media to transmit. If it is electrical signals, it is called as if it is a physical media, it contains either electrical signal or laser pulses. Electrical signal means UTP cable, laser signal means fiber cable. Next, one more type of medium is wireless medium. Wireless medium means wireless LAN technology, right? So media will be changed according to the transmission format. So how many types of media were there? Copper media is there, fiber media is there, and next wireless media is there, right? So these IP can work with any kind of media. So that's why it is called as media independent. Observe this figure. This system wants to send some data to this system, but observe. So this system is connected to the router through copper Ethernet. Then two routers connected using copper serial cable, and then these two routers connected using optical cable. And then these two routers, copper Ethernet, and then this is a wireless router, and this system is connected through wireless. Different types of mediums were there, but out of all these mediums, IP can travel through any type of medium. That's why IP is called as a media independent. Right. Next, so same figure. So, same thing with IPv4 and IPv6, but in network layer it has some unit called maximum transmission unit, MTU. Keep in mind this one, MTU. Okay, control information. Why? Because maximum transmission unit, because a copper cable has a different jumbo frame size. We learned earlier. Jumbo frames were different for different medium. One NIC supports 1000 bytes, one NIC supports 500 bytes. Okay, IP can travel easily, but we need to control the medium, because if the next network buffer size or medium size is 500 bytes, and our network card can support up to jumbo frames. So if we throw jumbo frames, size with the jumbo frames, those devices will be overloaded. Data transfer won't take place. So that's why we need to adjust this one. We need to adjust to suit the other network needs. So we need to maximum transmission unit. We need to use this parameter as a maximum transmission unit. MTU size can be changed according to our requirement. Right. Next. So we have IPv4 packets. I already told you what is IPv4. IPv4. IP means Internet Protocol version 4. Okay, it ensures the packet is sent in correct direction to the destination, and then it is processed at network layer. Next, how it is processing the data? By applying or attaching a IP header to the original data, which is called as a packet. This packet is transferred through the network. Right? IP packet header. Next, IP packet header is there. What are the fields were there in that IP header? So, IP header characteristics are: it is a binary, it contains several fields. Observe several fields, and you need to read this diagram from left to right. From here, left to right, you have to go, or you have to study. First one is version number. It indicates IPv4 or IPv6, and internet header length. Followed by we have two fields, data segment fields, DSCP and ECN, error controller, kinds of some special fields were there, and then total length field were there, identification, flag, frame offset, followed by time to leave, protocol, header checksum. Of all these things, two major things are source IP address and destination IP address. This is the basic IP header packet header format. You already learned this header format in your computer networks, right? So these fields were there. Let us see what are these fields. So first one is version. Version is there. So version is represented with 4 bits. Okay, for IPv4, we'll write it as 0100. Right. Next, what is IPv6? 0110. Right. Next, differentiated services, DS services. It contains differentiated services. Next, header checksum. Time to leave. Time to leave, it indicates the hop count. Hop count means if there are 10 routers were there in network, suppose source want to send packet to destination device, how many number of routers were there? 10 routers. Meaning is that packet has to travel through 10 hops. After the 10th hop, destination device is there. Right. So we will indicate the hop count. So number of hops. Suppose if I indicate with only 3 hops, so if I send data, so after sending the data, after crossing 3 hops, with the 4th hop, the packet will be discarded. Time to leave field is there. We can choose the number of hop count. Next, protocol. What are the different protocols were there? We have TCP, UDP, ICMP, like that. Next, source IP address, destination IP address. Basically, we know that IPv4 address is 32-bit address. So source and destination addresses size is 32-bit source and destination addresses. Next, a activity has been given. IPv4 Ethernet packets in Wireshark. Control information difference between packets. We need to identify these packets. So let us open Wireshark. I'll open Wireshark and we'll see same whether header format is same or not. Okay, same will be represented over there. So it's scanning my devices, network devices or network cards. I'll take my network card and in this one, LAN is there. Wi-Fi connection. My LAN is not available at the moment. So take one packet. So this is the packet, and in this one, observe. Yesterday we observed a Ethernet frame, right? Now we'll observe. We need to identify which one. IPv4 means Internet Protocol version 4. So open this one, Internet Protocol version 4. Observe. Observe. What is the first field? Version field is there. What is the number? 0100. It indicates version 4. Observe. Compare the same thing with your diagram or IP header, packet header picture. What is the next field? Internet header length. Header length. What is the header length? 20 bytes were here. Next. What is the next field? Differentiated services, either DSCP and ECN. Observe here. Differentiated services field were there. DSCP, CS0, ECN, not ECT, right? Open that one and you can see differentiated services followed by what is the next field? Total length. Okay, in this one, what is the total length? 40, right? Next, what is the next field? Identification. Next, flag, frame offset, fragment offset, right? Identification, flag. Open the flag. We have flags were there. After the flag field, what is the next field? Fragment offset, right? Next, time to leave, protocol and header checksum. Time to leave means number of hop counts. Observe, what is the time to leave? 244 means my packet can travel or cross 244 hops. After the 244 hops, the packet will be discarded, right? Next, what is the next field? Protocol. Which protocol I'm using? That means this frame uses TCP. Okay, TCP. Next, header checksum. Field is there. After the header checksum, source and destination IP address. Observe. After the header checksum, source IP address is 210.4.194.29. What is the destination address? 192.168.43.163. Let me check with my IP address. What is my IP address? My system IP address 192.168.43.163. That means this packet is downloading some data from the internet because destination is my system and I am getting the data from 210.4.194.29 remote system. This is the way we need to observe the IPv4 header fields, right? Next one, these are the different fields you observed with Wireshark. Next, IPv6. So IPv6, you just study this thing. Why? Because our network, what are the networks I am using right now, and basically what are the network we are using in the colleges or the network you are using at your homes, those are IPv4, right? Jio supports IPv6, but our devices were configured with IPv4 only. That's why we can experiment with IPv4 only. We cannot experiment with IPv6 at this moment. right? But we just learn the structure of the IPv6, but we can't do the practicals over that one at the school. Next, so what are the limitations of IPv6 means? IP addresses were exhausting. There is only limited number of IP addresses worldwide. All the people were using IPv4 addresses. If everyone is given with IP address, there will be no IP addresses in the future. So next, lack of end-to-end connectivity. Next, increased network complexity. With the increase of networks, the complexity in the network is going on increasing. And then, with increasing the requirement of IP addresses, there is a limitation or shortage in IP addresses. In the future, we can't get any new IPv4 addresses because they are already assigned to some other. To avoid these limitations, uh, IPv6 comes into picture. So IPv6 was developed by IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force. Okay, IPv6 overcomes the limitations of IPv4. What are the limitations of IPv4? Addresses were exhausting. There are only limited number of addresses, but IPv6 overcomes this issue because IPv4 addresses are 32-bit addresses, but IPv6 addresses are 128-bit addresses. That means it can give large number of address space, right? It improves packet handling. So observe this table. Observe this table. So we have this is the limitation of IPv4 address. IPv4 address can support up to 10 to the power of 9. That is 1 million addresses only IPv4 can support. After that, it won't support anything. That is the limitation of IPv4. To overcome that issue, we have IPv6, which is 128-bit address. So it can support more than that, 1 undecillion. That means 10 to the power of 36. 10 to the power of 36. That means, observe here, these are the number of zeros. This much of addresses can supported by IPv6. Right. Next, IPv6 header format. Comparing to IPv4, same here. First we will start with the version field. Version. Here what is the version? IPv6. IPv6 means what is the value? 0110. Next, traffic class, flow label, payload. Next header, hop limit, source IP, destination IP. It is little bit easier when compared to the IPv4 header format. These are the basic fields we have in IPv6. Let us see what are those things. Version 6 means it is indicated with binary bit value 0110. Traffic class means instead of using differentiated services in IPv4, here we will apply quality of service mechanism. We learned quality of service in the first year module. So that is applied over here, traffic class. According to the class, we will have priorities. Next, flow label. So we'll apply some labels so that we can identify the packet flow easily. Next, payload length. Payload length means the length of the data portion. The length of the data portion or packet is called as a payload. Right. Next header. Next header, it indicates the next level protocol. What is the next level protocol? Instead of protocol field, we have next header. It contains ICMP, TCP, UDP like this. Next, hop limit. Hop limit means in the IPv4 we have TTL field, time to live, number of hops. But here we have hop limit. You can directly give the value, number of hop limit. Right. Next, last two things are source IPv6 address. This one, it is not IPv4, it is IPv6. Destination IPv6 address. Okay. Next, packet header. IPv6 have packet header. You just learn that one. IPv6 also at the moment, my network, whatever the network I connected right now, it supports IPv4 only. There is no IPv6 network at my side, so I cannot do Wireshark experiment right now because I need IPv6 connectivity. Right, we will skip this one at this moment. Next, how a host routes. Up to this part, we connected devices, we configured devices with IP addresses, we know the basic understanding of IPv4 and IPv6. how to write an IP address or configure IP address for a device. Next is how a host or device, how a device forwards its data to the remote host without knowing it. Without knowing it, how a device forwards data to its host. Right. The basic example is you are writing an email to your friend or colleague. Right. What is the basic requirement? You need their address. So in your mailbox, using the right compose box, you just paste that destination address, write the data, and you just simply hit the send mail. Right. That is your duty. And next, what happens? That data is transferred to the network through the email server, and email server receives the data and it sends that email to the corresponding destination address. Right. This is the background thing happened. So this is the basic thing happened in the network in the background. So forwarding. So how these, that is an example like that. Suppose I want to send data to a remote host, how that packet is transferred. Okay. So packets are first created at the source. So if you are performing a request, this is nothing but a generating a packet. So this packet is created at the host. So each host creates its own routing table. That means your laptop also creates some routing table, right? Next, host sends packet to the following. So first, host sends packets in three ways. Either the packet is sent to itself, right? Or the packet is sent to the other system in the LAN. It is called as a local host, other system in the LAN. Next, remote host means it sends data to the device which is present at remote location. That is called as remote host. Local host, remote host itself. Self. Observe this picture. If data is sent to itself, the data is sent to itself. Or if the data, so example, so this system is connected to this switch, this system is connected to this switch. We can say that these two systems were on same LAN. If PC1 sends data to PC2, it is called as it is sending data to the local host, local network, right? If PC1 is trying to send data to some other network, some other remote host, right? Some other remote host, that host is called as, that destination host is called as remote host. The host, the destination host which is present in our LAN is called as local host, right? So we already seen in web programming, if I want to request a web page from my system itself, we will simply include the address localhost or 127.0.0.1. Means the request is sent to the system itself and the response is generated by the system itself. Next, localhost. If I want to get a web page from other system in the LAN, that is called as localhost. And then remote host. If I want to get data from Google, that is called as a remote host. Okay. First, you need to observe these. What is a self itself system? Next, what is a local host? What is a remote host? Next, host forwarding decision. How it takes place? Host forwarding decision. Right. For forwarding the decisions, we have two protocols: IPv4 and IPv6. So, I'll go move to the next one. So observe this diagram. This diagram is similar to the previous diagram. Okay, you already know that PC1 wants to send data to the remote host. So how this data is transferred? Observe this diagram. If PC1 wants to send data to PC2, how these packets are transferred? Through the switch, right? To the local host, the data is transferred to the switch, through the switch, right? If PC1 wants to send data to remote host, so how connection is established? Through a router, through a router. So using a router, we can forward our packets. Okay, we can, this host is forwarding the packets. So the systems, Observe the systems in the LAN network means PC1 and PC2 can make communication to the remote host with the help of router only. So here what I am telling you is router is the default gateway. Router is the only route. Okay, through the router only we can connect to the remote host. That's why router is called as default gateway. Router is called as default gateway. Just like, for example, your house has different rooms. Okay, for each room there is a door. If you want to go from one room to another room, okay, there is a corridor is there. Corridor, consider it as a switch. Some free space is there. Through that path, you can move from one room to another room, right? So here, you were in, you are residing in your home itself, in your land, okay, in your home itself. That's why you can move from one room to another room. And one more thing, if you want to go to your friend room means it is some different house present at some other location, right? So first, what are the steps you will take? First, you will come out of your room, and then for all your rooms, there is one main gate or compound gate is there for every home, right? That is the main gate. Through that gate only, every individual member of your home have to go outside through that gate only. Okay, if that main gate is closed, can you enter into the outside network? Outside, can you go outside while closing that one? You can open your room doors in your home doors, but while closing the compound or main gate, can you go outside? You cannot go outside because it is the main gate. It's the main road. It is a main gate. From that gate only, you can travel to outside world. Like this in computer networks also, for all the devices in the LAN, for all the devices in the LAN, right? If these devices want to make communication with outside world or outside network, we have a default route. So that default route is called as default gateway. And keep in mind that the default gateway is your router, right? In your home, you have your Wi-Fi router, right? So how your data is transferred to outside network with the help of router only, right? If you switch off your router, can you transmit your data? You cannot because router is your default gateway. Keep in mind. So while configuring IP addresses in a system, there are 5 parameters. IP address is the system address itself. Okay. Second one is subnet mask. Subnet mask concept I will tell you in the next module. But for the time being, consider that subnet mask some value is there. And then third one is gateway. What is the gateway address? You already learned. Gateway is the main point from which you are entering or making connections to the outside world. So which device connects different networks? Router is a device connects different networks. So our gateway is our main router. Main internet router is our default gateway. If you won't give your default, if you won't provide your default gateway address over there, then you cannot establish internet connection or you cannot establish connection with outside world. In the yesterday's example also, I configured my system. Before configuring that one, I simply plugged in my cable. Okay, the path or connection is established, but I couldn't make any internet connection with the outside world because IP address is misconfigured. I already told you. The misconfiguration is the default gateway address is not mentioned properly. Other than my default router, the default gateway address is kept with some other system address. Right? By changing my default gateway address with the address of my router, then I established my internet connection with outside world. So that is the main important thing. Keep in mind while configuring the addresses, IP address of your system, after that one subnet mask, and then default gateway. If you provide default gateway, you can establish connection with the outside world, right? Next, router or L3 switch. Some switch can perform L3 capabilities. Some switches can perform L3 capabilities. That L3 is default gateway capability is there. Okay, some devices won't have any default gateway capabilities, right? So a host route to default gateway, same, already told you with the existing diagram, already told you PC1 and PC2 wants to make communication with remote networks. So first these systems should be configured with IP address and then subnet mask, okay, and then default gateway. What is the default gateway to be provided to this system? The default gateway is the router IP address. What is the default gateway for PC2? Same. Router IP address is the default gateway address for PC2, right? So the main point you need to note is whatever the devices, how many number of devices were there in a LAN, the default gateway IP address for all the devices is same, because PC1 or PC2 can make outside contact using R1 only. So the default gateway for all the systems in the network is same, that is their router address, default gateway DGW, right? Next, so how to know these default routes? How to know these default routes? So we have a command called netstat. It will simply displays the network statistics, current network statistics, and there are some arguments. If I give netstat space minus R means routes. So it will display the already established network routes. So I will show you how to perform this action. So this is my command prompt. This one, first I will give netstat. So netstat means what are the number of connections established right now will be displayed. So you already know IP address 127.0.0.1 port number is my system IP address. Okay, forget about all these packets, and then coming to this one, 192.168.43.163 is my system address, local address, is making a connection with foreign address. What is the foreign address? 114.29.213.193 colon, on which port I am running that one? HTTPS. HTTPS means a secured web page. That means I opened my browser, right? I opened my browser. So I'm making a connection through the browser. So that route is displaying over here, and the protocol using there is TCP protocol. Local address is my system, foreign address is some other system or server IP address it shows, right? Like this, we can see the network statistics. And next one is to display the default routes. The command is netstat space minus R, right? So these are the different routes established right now at this moment. These are the default routes. So first it will display the interface list. All these are interfaces. So my laptop contains those many number of interfaces, 1 2 3 4 5 6 interfaces with a loopback interface. Next, what we need to check? IPv4 route table. So this is the routing table. First column is network destination. Next network mask. Next gateway. Next interface. Next metric. So observe, what is my system IP address? 192.168.43.63. Okay, network mask 255.255.255.255. It is called, that means all network mask values are high. What is its meaning? If all the bits are high, it is nothing but a broadcast address, right? Next, on link. Gateway address is on link, and the 190 interface is 192.168.43.163. So this is connected with the network 127.255.255.255. So these are the default routes presented in my system at this moment right now. Next, persistent routes. Persistent route means, so these are the routes, default persistent routes. So network address is 0000. All the bits are zeros. What does it mean? Means you can say that it's a multicast. Unicast means we'll have the destination IP address. Okay, next for multi means we have some other address. Broadcast means all the bits are high, right? Next, IPv6 routing table is there, but IPv6 routing table it's not showing any addresses because I didn't establish any IPv6 routes because my network won't support IPv6 right now. That's why persistent routes are none. The available routes are none. So this is the way you can check your routes. What is the main advantage of using this command is, in the background there may be different communication links established in your system. For example, if some virus or malware is there in your system, graphically it won't appears in the screen, but in the background that process goes on running. It establishes a connection with some remote hacker server, right? If we identify all these IP addresses established route, whatever the routes established using NetStat, we can monitor the complete activities. If that route is not belongs to our network, we can assume that some other thing is happening with your system, right? Next, routing. So routing, identifying the IP routes is the last one. So what is route? What is routing? Routing means, so whenever a router receives a packet, so that packet is decapsulated, open, and then it will check for IP address. So IP address. So it will check for IP address, and if that IP address is present there in the routing table, it will simply transfer the packet to that through that interface, right? If the router has no information with that IP address, that packet is again forwarded to the next available router, right? And the second router, if that routing table contains the IP address, what is that IP address? Like switch writes the MAC address entries in its CAM table. So whenever a system connected to a switch, that port number and that system MAC address information is maintained in a list. Like that, router maintains a routing table. Routing table means to that interface, to a router interface or port, IP address is stored. The connected, whatever the system is connected, that network address or IP address is stored. Observe this routing table here in this picture. Observe this routing table. This is the routing table of router R1. What are the entries were there? Route 192.168.10.0. You already know 192.168. It's little bit hard for me to write this thing with a laptop touchpad. 192.168.10.10. For example, an IP address is there. 192.168. To which system this IP address is configured? 192.168.10.10. Observe the diagram. 192.168.10.10. To which system this IP address is configured? 192.168.10.10. So observe PC1. Okay, PC1 dot 10 dot 10 is mentioned over here. That means Cisco won't write complete IP address. The last host portion, host means address of the system. Dot 10 is written over here, and then above this one, network address is mentioned. So already told you, in an IP address, we have a network portion and host portion. Network portion represents the route, host portion bit represents the address of the system. So address of the system is dot 10. And what is its network address? This is the network address 192.168.10.0. Okay, 10.0 is the network address of this network. What my point? And then router interface gigabit ethernet 0 by 0 by 0, that is an interface. Like our system has a NIC card, same thing, router has interfaces. Those interfaces are gigabit ports. Okay, for example, gigabit port G000 or another port G0 by 0 by 1, second one. So two ports were there. So observe here, two router interfaces were connected to two different networks. Okay, first interface is connected to this LAN, second interface is connected to this next router R2. Got my point? And observe the addresses. What is the address for PC1? First, read the network address 192.168.10. After that, this one, host portion 192.168.10.10. Next, what is the router address here? 192.168.10.1. Right. So router address is 192.168.10.1. PC1 address is 192.168.10.10. And what is the network of this network address of this LAN? The network address is, we represent with last bit 0, network address or that route address. So the network address is 192.168.10.0 /24. For the time being, it's consider it is a mask address, some notation, right? First, you will assume with only IP address 192.168.10.10. So which network it belongs to? PC1. The network address is 192.168.10.0. That means the route address is 192.168.10.0. Next, what is the route of PC2? The route address of PC2 or network address of PC2 is 10.1.2.0. 0 represents network address. So PC2 belongs to 10.1.2.0. Next, what is the PC2 IP address? PC2 IP address is first network address and then host address. What is the network address? 10.1.2. What is the address? PC2 address 10. So the complete IP address of PC2 is 10.1.2.10. Okay. So this is the network portion route. So what is the R2 second interface IP address? The IP address of R2, this second interface IP address is 10.1.2.1. Okay. Next, observe router and router is connected. So what is the network address of this connection? So network address of that connection is this one, 209.165.200.224. Right. Next, what is the IP address of R1 connected to this route? Means 209.165.200.225. What is the IP address of R2 connected to this route? Same, 209.165.200.226. This is the IP address we have to write. So we need to write the routing information table. So first we will go with the router R1. Right. How many networks were connected to router R1? This is one network, this is another network. Two networks were connected. So first, on the left side, first we will write the first route. What is the route? This network route address 192.168.10.0. Okay, write that one. 192.168.10.0 by 24. Onto which interface it is configured? It is configured to Gigabit Ethernet 0 by 0 by 0. Okay, next. What is the next network for R1? The next network is 209.165.200.224 by 30. Write that route. And next, so on which interface this route is configured? So this is the interface G0 by 0 by 1. So that is the interface. Next, R1 has information from another network, right? So observe here. So what happens is routers share their routing information. Routers share their available network information with another networks, right? So other than these two, routing table of R1 contains one more route, that is the route address of this one 10.1. Actually it is 2. The 10.1.2.0, it is 2 because it is 2 is there, right? So this 10.1.2.0 by 24. So how R1 is getting this information? From R2, right? So via R2, right? Next, one more important default route is there. It is abbreviated with all zeros. So whatever the router connected to another router, that is a default route via R2. This is the routing table of R1. Like this, we can write the routing table for R2. R2 also, we can write routing table. First one, what is the first available route? This one 10.1.2.0 by 24. On which interface it is there? For example, G0 by 0 by 1. Next, what is the next route for R2? 209.165.200.224 slash 30. On which interface means consider G0 by 0 by 0. Right. Next, one more network address is there. It is given by R1. It shares its address or a network address. So third entry is 192.168.10.0 by 24. So which interface? So there is no interface connected to network directly. Using R1 it is getting the information. So 192.168.10.0 by 24 via R2. The last one default route is same with router 2 also, but via R1, right? This is the way router maintains the routing information. So these are the two routers. Suppose if we have multiple routers, each router has its own routing information. Whenever a new route is created to one router, that new route information is shared with all the routers. So that new route information is stored in all the routers. This is dynamic. Day by day it is dynamic. It's changing behavior. So there are three types of routers in a routes in a routing configuration. Three types of routes. What are the three types of routes? Directly connected route. As we already learned that to router R1, this network 192.168.10.0 is directly connected. So this type of route is called as directly connected route. And router R1 routing table contains the network information of this remote network. But this remote network is not directly connected to the R1. It is connected through router. So that's why it is called as a remote network. So this type of route is called as remote route. Remote route. Directly connected route, remote route. That remote route can be manual or dynamic. Manual means we can write directly in the routing table, or whenever switches advertises or routers advertises or shares their information, those new information is updated dynamically in the routers. Okay, this is updated. This dynamic procedure is applied using some routing protocols. There are different routing protocols. RIP protocol is there, OSPF routing protocol is there. You learn these advanced concepts in the last module. Right. Next, one more important route is there, default route. Default route means when there is no match, that means there is no network available. For example, consider a case if R1, if some packets want to send data to some address, for example 172 168 like that. So in this network there is no such route 172 to 168. In this case, if there is no match in a routing table, all this kind of traffic is directed to specific direction. This is called as default route. So basically we have three important routes in a router: directly connected, remote connected. In that remote we have manual and dynamic, and then last one is default route. Right. Static routing. Static routing, I will tell you these things in the router configuration module. So in the router, like you configured IP address in a switch, in the router at that privileged mode, that go to privileged and configuration mode, in that one, there you will create some routes using command IP space route space the route address followed by subnet mask followed by next router. This is the way we can manually create a static route. Right. Next one, dynamic routing. Dynamic routing means the routers update the data itself. R1 shares its routing table data to R2. R2 shares its routing table data to R1. Like this, routers share their data dynamically using some protocols. One of the important protocol is OSPF protocol. RIP is also there, but OSPF is advanced version. Right. So in this dynamic routing, how it takes place means first remote networks were discovered. If a new network is encountered, that is updated in its routing table. Right. In its routing table, this new information is shared with all the routers in the network. Right. When a new route is established, consider this case. Consider the second diagram. So PC1 has connection to PC2 through R1, R2 like this, or R1, R3, R2. So there are two ways we have connection to the PC2. But what is the need of this extra route if already this route is there? Because in some cases, in some situations, suppose if this route is failed, that link is broke. In that case, the packet is transferred with this new best path. That means if we have more than one route to a destination point, if one route is get blocked or disconnected, we can transfer the packets through the new route. Right. So this is the major advantage of using dynamic routing. The routers share their routing information and get updated themselves automatically 24/7. That is the main advantage of using dynamic routing. Right. IPv4 routing tables. So this is the basic format of a routing table. This is a command. The command is called as show space IP space route. It will display the complete routing information. In that we have different abbreviations. Some letters were there. So L indicates directly connected network to a local interface. C indicates directly connected network but not local interface. S indicates static route. Okay, static route, manually configured static route. Next, O indicates OSPF protocol. D indicates EIGRP protocol. Okay, these are the letter indications. Suppose observe that command CLI output, that is a basic output, and for each output it started with a letter. So first letter or alphabet represents the meaning. L means directly connected, C means directly connected. Okay, S means static route, O means OSPF, D means EIGRP, and all these commands out of all these commands, they are categorized as, if the letter appears, first letter appears is C and L, it is called as directly connected route. If it is O, D, etc., it is called as remote route. And then if it is represented with S star, it indicates it's a default route, right? So with this, our module is completed, and I will show you the how routing table is there. Already I had some. So this thing you can't do right now, but I will show you the basic output, because I already did that routing protocols in my previous module. So I will show you and then end with this session. Packet tracer. Login. So routing is the main important thing. So that's why network layer L3. L3 is the most important layer. It is the most important job responsibility. The L3 layer of a network administrator. It is the most important module. Right. I'll open my previous activities. So what should I open? This one I will open. So this is the assignment given for us at the remote training program for us. This is our fourth assignment. So observe, this is a diagram. We have three multiple networks. All these networks were connected through three routers. Okay, we define those as areas, area 0, 0, 0. So first observe here the middle router. Middle router is connected to two different routers, right? The middle router is directly connected to the networks right below its networks. Those network addresses are 172.16 and 172.16.2 series, right? So these two networks are directly connected to the router. Next, what are the networks remotely connected to this middle router? So observe the right hand side networks 10.10.1.0, 10.10.2.0. These are the remote networks connected to the router, middle router via this third router, right? Now I will open the console of this middle router. I'll shift to privileged mode, show IP route. Observe this output. This is the output I am getting. Whatever the things mentioned by Cisco, so those are same. Observe L, D, N1, E1, some more parameters were there, I, P, right? So gateway. So these are the addresses. Observe. First we have O. O. What is the meaning of O? Capital O means OSPF. That means I used OSPF routing protocol to transfer data from 10.10.1.0 network to 172.16.3.2 network. So the routing takes place over there. Next, one more thing is there, 10.10.2.0 network to 172.16.3.2 network. That means routing. I had written routing protocol myself. That routing protocol is OSPF. It is represented with capital O. Next, what is the next letter? C. C means that is directly connected network. So 172.16.1.0 is directly connected to gigabit Ethernet 0 by 0. What my point? Next, one more network is there, 172.16.1.1 directly connected, right? Next, 172.16.2.2. series also directly connected. Next, observe 172.16.3.0, 3.1 directly connected through serial interface. Means here observe 172. This one 172.16.1.0 network, 2.0 network were directly connected through the interfaces. gigabit Ethernet interfaces, and then 172.16 3.0 networks, followed by next. What are the next networks? OSPF. C means directly connected. Next, L means directly connected. So this is the way router displays its routing table. The command to show the routes in a router is show space IP space route. So this is the way we can view the routes written in a router or dynamically created routes in a router, right? So with this, our module is finished. So you can exit from the session now. I will post the next session timing. It's already 1:30. You can exit from the session.